Hey everybody, today we are going to update Old New Gifted Blue for you. Okay, so before we get started, I'm asking you to please do all of the things and you know what they are. Now, this project started January 24th of this year and doesn't have an end date. This is the one that came up from a conversation that Misty and Jessica were having about Misty wanting to do something that she could put in some old and new products together. And in Jessica's head, she got the wedding rhyme. So she kind of created this for Misty. So I always give them both credit on this one. The hashtag on this is Old New Gifted Blue. The full title of the project is Something Old, Something New, Something Gifted, Something Blue. And the gifted is because you don't borrow makeup. I mean, you do, but as a general rule, you don't borrow makeup. And it is kind of icky to think of that and how many people would have that much stuff to have this an ongoing thing. Exactly. All right. This is the project where I give you really weird wedding trivia. Before I give you that trivia, we talk about what I had in for the last month. With the travel thing, I put in the gimme products. And this, I do samples a lot anyway. I do smaller things because I like to try and go through all of these every month. I went with perfume samples, which are very easy for me to finish off very quickly. Now, the other person here on YouTube doing this, of course, is Andrea from Pretty as a Peacock. And I know she chuckles every time I do perfume samples because she and I go through them at like completely opposite rates. I did finish all of mine. For my old, I had in Versace Bright Crystal. That one I know I enjoy. I just have a few of them around. Thought it'd be a good one to go ahead and get out of the collection. For my new, I had brought in, I have it here. I brought in Mugler's Angel Nova. You know, your standard sample. I finished this one off. I actually liked this one. This one I kind of thought was a good one. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never tried it before. For my gifted, I had gotten a sample of the replica Autumn Vibes as a, it was a Sephora, you know, where you pick the couple sample things. That's where that one came from. I didn't love it. I used it. I didn't love it. So, not anything. So far, nothing's really on my radar for repurchase. But then for the blue, I brought in the other Mugler perfume in just the regular Angel. You've seen it. I know that's kind of a fan favorite out there. I didn't love it. It was a little bit strong for me. I liked Nova better than the regular. Personal preference. What can I say? Okay, so in case you didn't guess by last month, if you follow this every month, I had done Ring Bearer, Page Boy, that kind of thing. So this time I thought, okay, well, let's do Flower Girl because those two go hand in hand in my mind at least. Oops, I just lost a slipper. Oh well. And I thought, all right, so basically these two are in here for the cuteness factor because it is cute. Are they necessary? Nah, no big deal. Well, okay, so I found out that I was completely wrong on the whole ring bearer thing and that there was a history for it and where that came from. And I'm thinking, well, it can't be the same with Flower Girl. It's no way. Completely off base. Flower girls go back to ancient Roman times. That'll teach me to assume things. All right, so generally, if you're going to have a flower girl, and these are not hard and fast rules, A, you don't have to have them, and B, you can do it any way you want. You can have a flower boy. You can have a pet do this. It makes no difference. You can do what you want. It's your wedding. As long as it's legal. I mean, I would assume you would want it legal. Knock yourself out. But if you're going to have a flower girl in the traditional type of sense, generally you're talking about a child from the ages of 3 to either 8 or 10. If you want to go younger, you're probably going to have someone carry the flower girl just to make sure that things go a little bit more smoothly. The tradition of these children wearing white is actually to symbolize innocence, which I kind of figured. I didn't know it was a tradition to have them wear white, but I kind of figured that's what the point of them wearing white is because the only other person wearing the white is the bride, but with Flower Girl, they get to also. Well, it also is stemming from the tradition of innocence and virginity and purity. All right. Now, there was a point, and I read this in one article, and I don't remember which one it was. I link all of this stuff below. You know this, right? I link all the people. I link everything. There was a point in time where the bride specifically chose a flower girl that looked like her. And it was intentional. And it really was to symbolize the end of childhood, the beginning of a new phase of life, but also that purity. That to me is a little bit on the creepy side. The whole idea of trying to make sure that the flower girl looks like a young version of you. Eh. Nowadays, if you have one, generally it's going to be either your child, the groom, the bride, the groom, the bride, who's ever. It's someone in the wedding party, one of their children, a friend of the family's child, a niece, a nephew, a cousin, whatever. That's generally where you're pulling that child from. It's going to be someone to whom you are close and you just want them included. Now, since this comes from ancient Rome, let's start there. Back at that point, almost all of the marriages were arranged marriages. The purpose of the arranged marriage was sometimes, there was the dowry things, which we've talked about in other cases or different topics. But the arranged marriage from this point of view was because of procreation. It was for the couple to have children so that the bloodline could be carried on and that the family name could be carried on. It did not matter if the bride and groom even knew each other. That's kind of what happens with an arranged marriage a lot of times. So in this case, when you had the flower girl, she was often carrying stalks of wheat. Now they were also including certain herbs, and I don't know specifically which ones, but if anything was going to be sprinkled down the aisle, it was going to be the herbs. And there were points where the flower girl would present the bride and groom with a basket of wheat and plants, and all of that was to symbolize fertility. That was the point. So it was a significant role in the ceremony. Gotta love it. Now, medieval times. We're talking about the 14th century here. All of the people that attended the bride in medieval times had to be young people. They were supposed to be children. There was an idolization of children and youth, and some of this is just so flippin' creepy, you guys. But the bride didn't have like her sisters and her friends and whatever. It was all children. They were the only ones allowed to attend the bride. So yeah, there was a flower girl there too. But now what we're seeing is we're seeing the addition of garlic. And the point of carrying the garlic was to ward off evil entities and intentions. That one I don't think is practiced at all anymore. I haven't seen that in anything that I found, but I'm not doing like weeks and weeks and weeks of research on this. So, it could be practiced some places, I don't know. So then we move to the Elizabethan era. Now we're talking about the 16th century, and this is where we start to see the flowers come in. This is where we're switching a little bit more from it just being about having kids to being about the bride and groom knew each other, that the flower girl, what the flowers were for, what this was representing was all of the well wishes for the couple. Now, this is the part where we start to see roses, and that is a first. So you've got not only roses, but you've got orange blossoms, rosemary, which may be a holdover, I'm not sure, and baby's breath. And at this point now you can pick any kind of flower that is going to have a representation. Wow, if I could get these words out, it would really make a lot more sense. The flowers were picked based on what the meanings of the flowers stood for, and those are the things that you're starting to see included. So it wasn't limited to just the ones I named. It literally could be like something that the bride was particularly fond of, things like that also. But the roses thing, which became the big thing that carried for centuries started here too. This is the time period where the flower girl was definitely scattering the petals. And at this point, it was not uncommon to have that. This was all for the bride's path. Now keep this in mind. That part is still true today. The flower girl goes before the bride and scatters whatever. So it was not uncommon that the path started at the front door of the bride's house and went all the way to the church. Obviously, this is not something where if you are on horseback in a carriage, whatever, then obviously that couldn't happen. But in a procession or if for walking, it would be that whole distance, which I thought was kind of unique. And then we move on to the Victorian times. Now here, this is where they're talking about the dresses that the flower girls wear. They're white dresses, most often made of muslin, but they will sometimes have little additions. The point of them being done this way was because these dresses were intended to be worn again. So it may have like a satin sash, it may have some lace on it, it may have something like that. And a lot of times that was something that was removable and then reusable for something else. But these garments were intended to be reworn as long as the child still fit into it. And this is the point where we see baskets of fresh flowers or petals. The other thing, which I personally have not seen at all in my recollection, but is a really cool idea, is a flower hoop that the flower girl carries. And the hoop itself has a special meaning. It is to symbolize true love that lasts forever because it is a circle and therefore it is without end. I thought, okay, that's cool too. So I don't think there was scattering then. It was just something that was brought up for the symbolic purposes. Now, if we want to talk about some modern times or more recent times, if you count anything from the last century recent, in the 20s, the flower girls were also dressed in flapper attire for that era. In the 40s, this is when we started having two. And a lot of that is attributed to Grace Kelly, who became Princess Grace of Monaco, and Princess Margaret, the late Queen's sister. They were the main ones that were very publicly, they were in the public eye for the wedding in general. So them having two really sparked off that tradition. In the 50s, we're seeing a lot more like lace overlays or lace gowns, satin, organza, the really formally type of stuff. Now, the mini-me tradition, and like I said, I don't remember exactly which era that is, they often had replicas with some modifications of the actual bridal gown. So when we start going back to the 50s, we're going back to a more formal gown, but it is not necessarily the replica of the bride's, but it usually coordinated at that point then. Now, we get to the 60s. So the flower girl got to dress like an actual flower child, which I thought was kind of fun. And then you're seeing some of the cool hippy dippy stuff too. You're seeing colors and patterns and different things like that, which is not necessarily like you'll see a floral print or something subtle. But in the 60s, they really went with that whole flower child thing. In the 70s, you see the rise of the empire waist dress. In the 80s, now we're having dried flowers as opposed to fresh flowers. And almost everything that comes from the 80s that became very, very trendy was Princess Diana. She sparked those traditions that is based on her wedding. And now in the 90s, we go back to a more casual because I think people are starting to realize that keeping these small children dressed very formally is going to be miserable and you're going to have cranky children at some point. So they became more casual in how they dressed the flower girl so that it was a bit more comfortable. It was more easy to manage because, they're going to get food on it. They're going to tear it. They're going to be dirty. They're going to play. They're kids. That's what they're supposed to do. So it became a little less stuffy and something that maybe the flower girl wouldn't necessarily mind wearing, especially if the flower girl liked to play dress up. You get the pretty party dress or whatever. So that's kind of where that stuff went. All right. I think that's everything I have on flower girls. I don't know how they're doing pets though. I'm still wondering about that one. I didn't really look too far into it, but I'm thinking if you had like say you had your dog, do you just put like a floral collar? I mean, a collar of flowers, or I don't know how you do it. Obviously, they can't sprinkle anything, and it's not something that the bride's going to tread on as she goes up the path, but the thoughts. You know where it goes up here. Okay, so that's all I've got for Flower Girl. Let's talk about what I'm going to bring in this month. For my old, I have another Scentbird. I have got, this one is Kate Spade in Full Bloom Blush. I have a couple of these because this is one of my fragrances that I really truly love. I have a full size in Minnesota, so I think I have this and two more. Now with this, you can see the little silver mark that I made. I have a silver Sharpie, so I thought usually when I'm done, I'll peel these labels off. So I didn't mind writing on the label, and I thought that would be a good way to let you know where I'm at because it's a little over half full. And so that is 0.27, and it was, oh, I didn't weigh that, 17 grams when I weighed this. We'll turn on the scale really quick because I forgot to weigh something. So for my new, I am bringing in the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. I got this for Amazon Prime Days, and I haven't used it yet. The foil is still, oh no, there is no foil on it. Oh, okay. Well, I still haven't used it. It's brand new. This is a 0.91 ounce product, 27 milliliters, not quite an ounce. I'm going to put this in for 8 uses because I figure that's going to give me enough different situations and days and lengths of time where I can see how it wears, and then I could have an opinion of this. Then for my gifted, oddly enough, I was having issues finding something because I didn't want to put in all perfumes again. I mean, I could keep doing that forever. I've got a million of those sample things. So I brought this in. This is the NARS Laguna Bronzer. And I got it in something. A hello bag. I purchased from NARS. I don't know. But it's their baby one. You guys have seen Laguna before. It's been around for 100 years. 100 years ago, I actually had a full size. And I never wore bronzer. It wasn't a thing when I was young, okay? I didn't start wearing bronzer until I was in my 40s. And the only one I had for years was Laguna. And I always thought it was a little bit dark on me. I mean, I'm pretty pale. So I didn't love it a lot. And then when one of the nieces got married at our house, she needed a bronzer and I gave her mine, and they basically killed it off between the bridal party, which I was fine with. I know they're expensive, but I wasn't really using it. I really wasn't wearing bronzer, especially not when I was working. I was not wearing bronzer. This is a very recent thing. So having this baby one, I'm going to put it in for 8 uses just to figure out if the color does work for me, because I'm not entirely certain if I even like Laguna. So that's going in. Now, for my blue, I have a Bath & Body Works Vanilla Hand Cream. It's the 1 ounce, which I forgot to weigh. Scale went off because I was yapping too much. Okay. We are at 26.7 grams right now. I will write that down because I didn't. No. I shouldn't talk and write at the same time because apparently I don't know what I'm doing. So this is not full. This is not brand new. It is... Okay, so around half, let's say. And we're going to be putting on hand lotion now. And I'm pretty sure that I can have this finished off for next month. So that's why that's coming in. And now I have to talk to you while this dries so that I can go back and finish what I'm doing. Anyway, those are the 4 items that I am bringing in for this project. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And until next time, everybody, see ya. Bye.